Internet, hello you lovelies. I just saw Mortal Kombat 2, and this is the year of not just video game movies between Mario in the late spring, Mortal Kombat in the summer, and the fall featuring Resident Evil and Street Fighter. This is the year of millennial video game movies because this is my era of I was a Sega Genesis kid. I was a insane arcade just trying to learn how to play kid. I was a kid that loved a side scroller. I do not understand the Z-axis in my brain for a video game, but this is a love letter to my era and the modern day. This is going into all of the modern Mortal Kombat stuff that I've seen gameplay of. This goes into a lot of the rich lore and the tapestry of things that I get just enough of to get the references, but it is such a beautiful, endearing experience for millennials. This is such a proof of concept that millennials are now the suits and we get to make the stuff that we always wanted to see. It is all of the weird, silly, I'm gonna use a couple words that most people would use as like a negative. I'm gonna say a word that people think is a bad thing about movies. This movie is fun, but that's a compliment. This movie is silly, but that's a compliment. This movie is all of the things that if you were a kid and loved those first two Mortal Kombats, you wanted this to be. This is the tournament movie we've always wanted, but with today's special effects and with characters that I didn't think we'd see, and some characters I honestly didn't know, but in a way that feels like a tournament, in a way that feels like a mashup of that first film, which I personally got a lot out of. I think it was a really good, at times maybe a little over dramatic, but a really good setup that was really missing the tournament. And this one built on that and added the fan favorites like Johnny Cage, added characters like Jade that was right at the end of my time in the world. Shao Kahn gets to be big, bold, and awesome. But the whole time, there are moments of just pure silliness and pure, I was smiling for the whole runtime of this movie. There wasn't a minute where I wasn't even acknowledging some writing foibles and some acting choices, just gleeful, because it's such a wish fulfillment kind of vibe, and it reminded me a lot of Mario. My Mario review was about the visuals and kind of the desensitization of what a movie needs to be in order to be entertaining. A lot of times, these blockbuster tentpole movies have so much they're trying to do that they forget how to be fun, and Mario, I think, is a little thin on story, and so it kind of becomes this very beautiful screensaver of nostalgia and wonder and joy, and sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes it's nice to just go, oh, it's so nice to live in this world. This one is a little different than that. This one has lots of story. This one goes a lot of places. This one brings in a lot of realms and worlds and ideas and all these things, but it never overcomplicates itself. And I think it really could have in the wrong hands. I think it could have gotten kind of worked up into its own machinations, but instead it remembers that it's a tournament movie. At times there are sets of fights going on simultaneously and you're intercutting between them. At times it has like emotional cues where it triggers the other character. At times it makes references and callbacks, but the whole time it knows it is appealing very specifically to a Mortal Kombat audience. I do not think, as of right now, there is no Rotten Tomatoes score. As of right now, I don't know what the people think about this, but I think this is a movie that was so made for Mortal Kombat fans that even as someone that hasn't played games since the early 2000s, this is exactly what that pre-90s energy is, mixed with some characters I didn't even need to know in order to be invested in them. This had Baraka getting an actual arc and journey. This had a lot of characters that I didn't think I was invested in. Like Liu Kang is obviously the guy, right? Johnny Cage, Liu Kang and all those things. But every time Liu Kang had a fight in this movie, I like adjusted and got like way more engaged. Like I didn't realize how much of a Liu Kang fan I was in every single fight he's gotten here. There's a Liu Kang fight. His first real like 1v1 fight is insane in this movie. The martial arts in this movie are so one of one because they're trying to make sure the practical is applied, but they're also known Mortal Kombat moves. Like this thing is playing with each character in a way that it's expressing the way those characters have to move in the video game so fans can engage with like, oh my god, I got to see this thing, but also they're using in-movie mechanics to make it so it actually furthers the narrative and the plot. Now, at this moment in this review, I'm making this sound like Citizen Kane for video games. It is by no means a tightly written film. There were a few times I had some eye rolls, but it kind of lended itself to that 90s charm. Those first two Mortal Kombat movies are not things that are about their writing. They're a blast and they're fun. This one follows in that same vein. I think it is way better written than the first one, and I think that is better written than the old two, but there are some writing issues, and the acting at times is like which version of this movie are we in? And the movie's very meta. Like Johnny Cage is referencing modern pop culture. There's some Mission Impossible poster pastiches. There's a lot of that Jean-Claude Van Damme energy that Johnny Cage is based off of. And that meta mostly works. But there's also times when the acting is like, this feels like the same bad acting that we were kind of homaging earlier. So some of the acting's uneven, and there's some casting choices, I think that, for example, Johnny Cage. I love KARL Urban, but Johnny Cage is like an Austin Butler or a Glenn Powell, and to me, KARL Urban is exactly Kano. Like, you cast him to play Kano. So there's a few times where I was like, well, that's not quite how I see Luke Cage. That's not how I see the character per se. But by the end, I'm so sold on KARL Urban's specific KARL Urban Luke Cage, Johnny Cage, that there's a scene near the end in the third act where he's fully Johnny Cage to me, to the point where I'm like, okay, I see where we landed with this Johnny Cage. So even some of my pitfalls of this, I had so much fun. So I can't give this movie higher than like a B-. It is certainly something that is for and by fans to really just appreciate the cheese of. Like, this is something that is so good for like a Friday night. This is something I'll watch on like TNT kind of vibe. This is something I'm excited to show other people that are already invested, but it's like a B movie, but done right. It's like a high budget B movie that is made for fun, that is not trying to be anything it's not. And I think that there's something really interesting to that, because we're entering this video game movie age, and I think it's gonna mirror the comic book movie age of the 2000s. Because when the comic book movie stuff started in the 2000s, there was this sense of like a joie de vivre. Like, Ghost Rider was fun, Daredevil was fun, the first Punisher that after Dolph Lundgren, the Tom Jane Punisher was fun, even in its melodrama, melancholy. Like that Spider-Man, X-Men, that early 10-year 2000s era was just about like enjoying the facts we're getting to see these characters. And then over time, like, we got weighed down in like shared cinematic universes and got into the point of like this crazy scrutiny. But that first 10 years, it was just so exciting to see a comic book movie character come to life. I think that's what we're in right now with video game stuff. I think between Mario and Mario 2 being just like fun and like a screensaver come to life with nostalgia in these characters, and now these two Mortal Kombats being such a celebration of the fandom themselves. And it looks like when we get Resident Evil, it's going to be someone that loves this experience making his own isolated horror movie thing. And Street Fighter looks like the most millennial trailer I've ever seen in my life. So with the millennials being the suits, and with these video games getting the budget, and with people, if they show up to it, I think we're gonna have this nice 10-year span that we look back nostalgically on. I think a lot of people are falling in love with 2000s comic book movies because they don't make them like this. I think this is that era for video game stuff. I think Mortal Kombat 2, it's not a great movie, but it is one of the most fun movies. It is a crowd pleaser, another buzzword that is probably used negatively that I'm gonna give positively. Fun, silly, crowd pleaser, all the things you don't wanna hear in a poster, I actually think are good things, because I had fun, I was pleased, and I am very happy with Mortal Kombat 2. I hope you are too. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Mortal Kombat 2. What a time. It wasn't a flawless victory, but it wasn't a fatality either.